Okay, so we're speaking to Ian Kirk, and Ian, you are the first person in the Isle of Man to be qualified to be a Wim Hof instructor. We're going to get into all sorts of aspects to do with this during the interview. But first off, give us a bit of an introduction to you and your background and why you've gone down this path in your life.
Okay, well, really for me, it was, I was used to work in a factory, building shower screens for the elderly and disabled. So that was my job, my career, of what I was doing at the time. I spent 12 years doing that. And in that time period, a lot went on, obviously over a 12-year period. And it got to the point where I had a breakup. My fiance, had the house, had the car, I was engaged and all the rest of it. And my life kind of just took a downward spiral from kind of that moment. Afterwards, not long after that, my fiance left. I was sick at the time. I have a twin sister. She suffers with mental health disorders and things like that, and she was actually in prison at the time. So, which wasn't good for my mum and everything else I had going on. So it was over this period of time where I was in the biggest hole that I'd ever been in. So I started searching for something to heal myself. I went through all the doctors, and they were trying to diagnose me with a bowel condition that I was suffering with. And before I was scheduled to go for the colonoscopy, which is the camera up the old rear end, I decided I was gonna heal myself, and I started searching different methods of healing and things like that. So straight away I changed my diet. I went on a plant-based diet, even though I was kind of ridiculed by some people, and I was called a weirdo, and seen as being less of a man with not eating meat and things like that. So yeah, but they didn't know at the time that I was actually sick, and I was trying to get over my condition. So it took around 2 years of me messing around with my diet and nutrition and things like that to finally got to the stage where I felt actually well again, as like literally well within myself. So that took about 2 years. But in that time as well, I also felt better in my own mental state. I felt better in my own health and well-being, and from there it's like, okay, I just carried on researching, using my body as kind of an experiment to see what foods worked and what didn't work, and things like with fasting and intermittent fasting and all this type of stuff. So I was looking into all this stuff while I was still working at the factory.
Yeah, and when you were doing this sort of stuff, when you are doing this sort of stuff, do you base it on how it ends up making you feel? So is it as simple as that? It's like, if this works for me, then I'm going to keep doing this?
Yeah, more or less. It's and that's one thing about the Wim Hof method is feeling, is understanding. That's one thing Wim says. So before I even got on that journey to the Wim Hof method, I was already kind of feeling what foods and what diet would be best suited for me. So I was constantly changing, constantly learning, constantly adapting, and adding certain different things into my diet that made me feel better. And then that took me to a point of finding a guy called Alfredo Bowman, known as Dr. Sabi, online, and I found his nutritional guide and his guidance, and found out about his herbs and things like that. And he actually had a village in Honduras where he was treating people with all kinds of illnesses and diseases. So for me, when I got to that stage of learning and understanding and finding him, I've seen him as like, okay, everything he's kind of saying is he's proven, and he just seems like he's an honest, genuine person. So I kind of delved into what he was doing and things like that, and I added some of that stuff into my diet, and I felt even better. So for me, before I was going on the Wim Hof path, I had decided I want to go to this village in Honduras, which they say is the murder capital of the world, and it's dangerous and all the rest of it. So for me, I decided, okay, well, that's what I want to do, because I want to learn about the herbs, and I potentially want to bring this back to others, because I know the feeling that it's given me. So that was kind of my journey and where I wanted to go, and I wanted to head to Honduras no matter what. Everybody else told me about all the fear-based stuff, the murder rates and everything else, but I was still going. So, but it wasn't up until 2016 until I was put on the Wim Hof path, and that was actually by a friend's father. My friend was Little Steve Bowles, and his father was Big Steve. And it was one day when, because I worked building shower screens, Big Steve was diagnosed with cancer. So Big Steve got his diagnosis, and Little Steve came around and told me about it, which upset me. So I started looking into more how cancer works and things like that, more diet and nutrition. And then Big Steve rang me up and asked me to come round and give him a magazine, because he wanted a wet room for when he was doing his chemotherapy, so he could get in and out of the bathroom with ease. So I said, yeah, no problem, I'll come up, I'll bring you the magazine. So when I went round there, I was sat with him and his wife Jean, made me a cup of tea and sat there, and we talked natural healing. Big Steve was quite open-minded. He was growing his own vegetables in his garden. He had a bit of an allotment and things like that, so he was already into natural foods and things like that. So then I started talking about this guy, this Alfredo Bowman, Dr. Sebi, and how he has this alkaline diet and this nutrition that is really good for cleansing, and these herbs and all this stuff that I knew. And then he turns around to me and he's like, have you ever heard of this guy called Wim Hof, the Iceman? And I was like, yeah, I've heard of him, but only since from 2007. And so yeah, that night he planted the seed in my brain. So that night I went home, and as I would, I'd be cooking my tea or my dinner, and I'd stick YouTube on, and while I'm chopping stuff up and doing stuff, I'd listen to YouTube. And the very first podcast that was on the YouTube channel was Joe Rogan and Wim Hof. So I thought, oh, that's interesting, a bit of a synchronicity there. So I clicked on the video, and that's when I learned that Wim, it wasn't just Wim that could do what Wim can do. That he was teaching everybody, and everyone can have this control and this power if they're just willing to try something different, and to break that fear of the cold that we all seem to have. We all seem to have fear of the cold. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm interested in this, and I looked up the expedition, and I seen the price and everything, and I thought, oh well, really, can I really justify going on that when I want to go to Honduras?
So this was to go and train with Wim Hof?
To train with Wim on what is known as the winter expedition in Poland, where you go there in December, in the height of winter. And you do the training, you go in the frozen waterfalls and the frozen rivers, and then after the training you go and climb Mount Snezka, a mountain in Poland on the border of Czechoslovakia. And you climb up the mountain and you just do it in shots. So that was the training. So
how do you even get to that stage?
Well,
to be able to do that, to be able to go up a mountain, a frozen mountain in your shorts.
So this is it. The body adapts really, really quickly. So in the space of a couple of days, you're already feeling, and you can already see in other people the benefits of this method. It's you seeing the change in them physically and mentally and everything. It's superb. When I found out about the expedition, I thought, okay, well, I'm trying to save money for the Honduras thing, because I'm adamant that's where I want to go, and I can help people with this knowledge and this information. So, but then I had another friend at the time, Jamie Carr. He was diagnosed with bowel cancer. I found out about him 5 days after Big Steve, and within 6 months, Jamie lost his fight with cancer, and he was basically training as a bodybuilder, and he was getting ready for competitions, and that's when he got sick. The next time I seen Jamie was in the hospice 2 days before he passed away, and it was hard to see. It was hard to see your friend who you've seen so big and so strong for so long being in a different state in the hospice.
It's really, really sad to see that happen, isn't it? That transition, that transformation that people go through in that situation. It's no longer them, really, is it?
That's it. I mean, so that was quite hard for me to take, but that just pushed me even further. So then I carried on looking up different healing methods and all kinds of other things, and then that led me to when I went to look on the Wim Hof expedition. This is, say, now 6 months after Jamie, and 6 months after Jamie, and another friend's father at work had got diagnosed with like a lad who had been working with for 12 years. Dave, his father, had been diagnosed with cancer as well. So now I had him dealing with what he was going through. Big Steve was still doing well, and I'd not heard about him back from him about the magazine, and what shower stuff he wanted. So I bumped into his son Paul, or stepson Paul, and just walking down the road with a dog one day coming from the gym, and I pulled over and I spoke with Paul, and I asked him how Big Steve was getting on, and he informed me that Big Steve had been taken over to Liverpool because the tumours had now spread from his lungs to his brain. So that's once again took me back, and I was like, right, okay. So that made me think, you know what? This fear of the cold that I have, because I used to hate the cold just like everyone else. I thought, well, I need to go on this expedition. He's told me about this guy, and I have to go and experience it for myself, because I'm one of those people who'd rather experience it for myself, know for myself if it works and if it doesn't, and then I can talk about it. I'd rather try it first. So I went home that day, and I went to book the expedition. I thought, sod the money for Honduras. I'll get some more money somehow. So I went to book it, and it was fully booked. So I got a cancellation. I emailed the Wim Hof team. I asked them if they had any cancellations, could they let me know? And they informed me that there was already 6 people on the waiting list, and that I'd be lucky if I got the chance and things like that. So anyway, over that next 2 or 3 month period, I watched my Dave at work dealing with his father being sick, and Gary, both 2 twins, who worked next to me at work. His father, John Kirk, was actually the groundsman at Old Boys football pitch, and great guy, always full of life, always a smile on his face, just like Big Steve, really. And so then John passed away, and that was then hard to take. At the same time, now we're building up to like October, November time. My sister, who suffers with mental health disorders, my twin sister, she tried to commit suicide twice in 9 days, in the space of 9 days, which was tough. And then for my mum as well, who suffered with her mental health and things like that, and my father, he suffers with arthritis. So all this stuff I found out when I was researching into the Wim Hof method, all this stuff could help with all these things. So
there's also a parallel there within your story to an extent with kind of what motivated this guy in the first place, really, with his wife suffering mental health issues and ultimately, sadly, committing suicide. Was sort of what pushed him into a lot of this, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah. This is it. From a lot of our most painful experiences, we get our greatest lessons. So from me having, like, what happened to me with everything I was going through with my health and everything, it pushed me to learn more about myself. It gave me that push I needed. Now all the other people around me that are suffering with mental health disorders, certain illnesses and things like that, it pushed me to break up my fear of the cold, pushed me to learn more about the human body, how it works, the mind, and all these other aspects of being, really. And this is what put me on the path. That then on the Friday, this was the Friday when my sister, for the second time, tried to end her life. I then had my friend who passed away when I was 20 years old, his annual darts night on the Saturday. But on the Friday night before that, going through all these emotions, I went home and had already started the 10-week course, the Wim Hof Method 10-week online course. So I started that. I went home from work early after seeing my sister. I didn't want to go back to work. So I have to go home, clear my head. So I went home and I started doing the breathing techniques, did the rounds of the breathing. And at the end of that breathing, I had a message just popped up on my phone, an email from the Wim Hof Method team, and this is 2 weeks now before the expedition, in the start of December or end of November. So I had an email saying there's been a cancellation. Would you like to come on the Wim Hof Method, the winter expedition? So I just decided, you know what, after the week I've had with my sister and the month I've had with everything else going on, it's like, yeah, I'm going. I don't care about the money. It's not an issue. Like, I'm going. I want to have this experience. So that Saturday we had the darts night, and needless to say, I got a little bit drunk because of my emotions being up and down and all the rest of it. And then something else happened on the Monday. I was on the way into work. I slept in. Usually I'd be in one of the first in, being a supervisor and first aid trained and everything else. But I slept in that Monday, and on the way to work I got a phone call from a member of staff asking where I was and if I was on my way. And then I found out that one of the guys at work had hung himself in the storeroom in the factory. So now I've got all this depression, suicide, everything, deaths all around me, everywhere else.
You must have felt surrounded at that time.
Yeah, surrounded. I literally felt surrounded by death, disease and illness, and it was like I'm trying to tell people about all this other stuff and no one wants to listen, and then this happens as well, and it's just like, you know, I just didn't know what to do. So anyway, like within, I think it was 9 days after that, I'd booked onto the Wim Hof Method, which is funny actually, because after I did the breathing that day, and I was worrying about, you know, how am I going to fund the flights and all the rest of it, because there's less time to get there. So I ran downstairs after doing the breathing, and I got to the bottom of the stairs, and there's the old dreaded gas bill. It's like, oh God, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to pay for this and that. So I opened up the gas bill. I opened it up, and it just turns out that I was overpaying my gas for the whole year, and that I had a rebate there of £350. So I was like, oh, excellent, I've got a rebate. So I decided to go to my mum's to try and book the flight for Poland and work out the prices, and it just so happened that the price for the ticket for the plane journeys off the island into Poland and back, or well, to Prague first, it just worked out to be the same amount of money. So it's like, for me, it's following the signs now. I was thinking, okay, I'm destined to go here. This is something I need to go and do.
I was going to say, did you keep feeling like there were just all these little coincidences happening?
Yeah.
And it was, like you say, well, people always choose to interpret those things as they want, don't they? But for people who do, when you see something like that, you take it as a sign, because you go, well, I'm thinking about this, and here seemingly is someone or something making the decision for me.
This is it. Yeah, I mean, for me, being quite into looking at all this stuff over the years that I had, it put me in tune with, for me now, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything is kind of happening the way it is, and you can either choose to flow with it or fight against it. So for me, when I started seeing all these signs and these things pulling me towards this method, it's like I knew I had to go. All this other stuff that was going on in my life, my whole life was all over the place. My emotions was all over the place. And for me, I always found it hard to open up about stuff. Like a lot of people do, they always hold it in and they don't want to tell anyone and burden anyone else and things like that. So for me, when I got there in Poland, on the first day, they had us breaking our boundaries, introducing other people who we just met. They had us in the cold water first day. And when I first got out of that first river, my toes were like blocks of ice. I struggled to get my socks on because I just could not feel my feet. They just felt like foreign objects. And then literally after that, we went back to Wim's house and we tried to do the Qigong. Well, we did the Qigong to warm up with and things like that. And I just remember that day thinking, I don't want to go through that pain, because it was really painful with my toes, really painful. And I thought, I don't want to go through that pain again. So the next morning, me and a guy called Enrique from Venezuela, we got up early in the morning. The deal was I'd get up in the morning and we'd go in the ice bath outside Wim's house together, because I'm always up quite early anyway from working in the factory, and he suffered with sleep apnea, so he'd be up as well. So the deal was he puts the sauna on and we both go out into the ice bath together, come out, warm up a little bit, and then go in the sit in the sauna while everyone else wakes up and gets ready for the day. So anyway, we did. I come down at 6 in the morning. He's there he already got the kettle on and the coffee going. And he's like, "Oh, we're going to the ice bath." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it then. Let's do it. Have you put the sauna on?" He's like, "Yep." So we stripped off. We got in the ice bath on the second day of staying in Wim's house, and we got in there. And as we're doing relaxing, the calm, breathing deeply in and humming on the way out, slow the heart rate down, so we're nice and relaxed. Next thing, our instructor Chuck comes opening the door. He's like, "Great effort, guys, but can you get out of there? You don't know what's coming today." Okay, yeah, not a problem. Come on, Enrique, let's get out the ice bath. So we got out and we did a little bit of warm up before we went into the sauna, which is the best thing to do. Warm your body up naturally first. And then we went into the sauna, which unfortunately for Enrique didn't turn it on properly, so it was freezing cold in the sauna as well. So we quickly jumped in a hot shower, trying to warmed up a little bit, and but I didn't get the pain. The second day I didn't get the pain, and after that, we were informed the reason why we got out of the ice bath at Wim's house was because we were taking a short little walk around the corner to the frozen waterfall. I don't know if you've seen the Vice documentary.
Yeah.
So the frozen waterfall from the Vice documentary, that is where we went next. So after already doing an ice bath in the morning, and then before any breathing, now we're going straight to the waterfall. So there was lots of cold exposure straight away, first thing in the morning. Which was,
as someone who, as you say, feared the cold to a great extent, what were these experiences like then? Was it helping you to get over this even at this early stage?
Yeah, very much so, because you had to break that. You're in a group of 20 other people. Ours was all men, so it was like everyone's going in together. It created a great bond and a connection. Going into the cold, which is stress, which we all deal with in daily life. Going into that, you learn how to relax, because the idea with the cold is relaxing. Let go. You can't take any baggage or anything you're holding on to, or an argument you had 2 days ago into the cold. It's just, you just fight or flight, pure. Everything's telling you to get out of the cold. But once you start to relax, you start to focus on your breathing, close your eyes, slow your heart rate down. Know that you're in it now. You're not getting out. You surrender, basically. Surrender's not a weak word. So you surrender, you relax, and then in that moment, for me, is where I'd find peace, a real peace of mind, that kind of a lot of people are searching for in life. We're always on the go. We're always have to be here or there or whatever, and all the chaotic things that were going on back home. So for me, that's where I kind of found a moment of peace, and it put me in the present moment, centered in the now, as they say.
Yeah, like that idea of just stepping away from everything, stepping out of everything for a moment, like you say. So instead of feeling surrounded by it, you can almost step out of it and have a look at things from the outside to a great extent, or even just don't think about it for a while.
That's it. Don't think. There is nothing. It's just you and the breath, and that's it. And in that moment is where you find a lot of peace, and therefore when you're now, because the latest studies show that Wim's getting into the deepest part of the brainstem, where the opioids and cannabinoids and stuff like that are being released naturally. So going into the cold, you're learning to go into a different part of the brain. You're learning how to relax into the cold. So now in a stressful environment, whenever you go into a stressful situation, you learn how to basically control your breathing and relax more. Therefore, you're more in control of your emotions, you're more in control of your anger, you're more in control of a lot more systems of the body that we never really tap into.
Yeah. How do you deal with the idea then? Because obviously the body is reacting to cold in the natural, in the normal way that it does, because it's trying to warn you about something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Saying that this is really cold and it could harm you, do you damage, it could kill you.
Yeah.
So you're trying to override a natural response within your body that's telling you to not do something because it could kill you.
Yeah. Potentially what happens is the body is, this body that we've been given is like so clever that it will adapt. It will give you what it needs. I mean, once you go into the cold and you focus on your breathing and you relax, the body then starts to react the way it should. It's the body, like when we're born with high amounts of brown fat tissue. Brown fat is the energy source of the body. not the energy source, but creates energy. It creates heat and things like that. So a newborn baby, when it's born, has high amounts of brown fat because it doesn't need clothes. We put clothes on the child, but really that's why you see a lot of children sometimes, if they're running in and out of the sea, they don't feel as cold as, say, an elderly person. Because over the years, what we've been trained to do is be comfortable in our nice warm clothes with our central heating and the car being fully whacked up to the hot on when it's wintertime.
Well, like you say, the natural response to cold is to get rid of that cold, or to make yourself feel less cold.
This is it.
Yeah.
So by doing that, we actually stop the production of our brown fat. So the older we get, the less brown fat we get, which means less energy, which means we will feel the cold more. So by going into the cold, letting the body do what the body does, which is adapt, it creates more brown fat, which means more energy and more heat. So therefore, you can come out of the cold water and you actually feel on fire. You actually feel like you're hot in some cases, and it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. You feel amazing. You feel quite euphoric because of all the other chemistry that's being changed in the body, and it's an amazing experience.
I don't know why, but it's brought to mind. My brain works like this and draws out really weird bits of trivia that I've absorbed from various places over the years. But it brings to mind a story about Stanley Matthews. I'm pretty sure that Stanley Matthews said that his dad used to make him and his siblings like stand in front of an open window in the wintertime, and sort of breathe and all this kind of stuff. And obviously, the guy was fit as a butcher's dog and ended up playing professional football till he was 51 years old, and was known. I think obviously the fact that he was a teetotaler and didn't smoke was obviously a huge advantage in those times. But he said that in terms of how that sort of upbringing toughened him up, and made him just,
This is it. We're not to say that we've gotten soft, but we're not stimulating the body in the way it should work with these natural elements that we have. To work at its full capacity. So we've actually cutting ourselves off from this.
What about, let's say, for example, with something like this where you're dealing with extreme cold, what about the things that can physically actually happen to you, though? So, for example, like frostbite or,
see, frostbite,
or hypothermia.
Frostbite and hypothermia, I mean, it's definitely there. It's definitely something that can happen, but not as quick as we're made to believe. And through this training in the cold, we can actually develop ourselves to become more resistant to these things coming on, and know that our body can adapt. I did a workshop in the Lake District with another instructor, a friend of mine called Emma Estrella Corrie, and we did a workshop with a Swim the Lakes. We combined it with a Wim Hof. We did Swim the Lakes and Wim Hof. And there was a woman there who we hadn't really done the breathing beforehand. Okay, so they'd done the Swim the Lakes, and now we were going into the Wim Hof method, and they wanted the guys in the lakes to swim in there for like 10 to 15 minutes, whereas we only train 2 minutes. 2 minutes in the cold. Once we've done the breathing, changed the chemistry of the body, help with pain thresholds and things like that, then we go into the water. Or sometimes we do it without, but it's just the mindset. So anyway, we this lady, she was struggling to even do 1 minute to 2 minutes in the water beforehand. She got into the water this time, and I gave her a little tip on the way. I told her about the humming and how we really only need to do 2 minutes to train the vascular system and the circulatory system. So just do 2 minutes, and I said, breathe in deeply, relax, and exhale slowly. Even use the hum. So she gets in the water, and she's running around with her hands in the air, going doing all this, and I just advised her, I said, listen, just relax, and do the hum. So she was humming and she was relaxing, and she was still going. And then after 3 minutes, and not 2 but 3, I said, okay, now you've done 3 minutes. And she was like, oh, okay, well I'll stay in and I'll do 5 now. Okay, you stay in and do 5. And then she carries on concentrating on the breathing, relaxing, and I guess the 5 minutes, I say, okay, now you're at 5 minutes. And at 5 minutes, she was like, I dipped her shoulders down into the water for the first time during the day. And she turned around, she's like, I actually feel okay now. I was like, okay, yeah, there you go, you're relaxed, your body's adapted. And so she turned around and said, I'm going to go and join the others for the swim. So she started swimming off with the others, And after 10 minutes, she comes out, and she does 10 minutes, and she comes out, and she's not even bothered about being cold. She comes out, she goes, "I've done 10 minutes," and she's got her hands up in the air, and she's glowing red where all the circulation, the brown fat's been activated, and she's so happy. She's not worried about being cold or anything like that. But then, whilst we were doing the warm-ups and everyone else was getting out of the water, I noticed a couple of other people going into that early stage of possible hypothermia. It's quite a big stage. So anyway, she's starting to shake. I could see the colour in her face is gone, and she's uncontrollably shaking and things like that. So I just softly went over to her, sat in front of her, and I just started speaking to her. And I just started saying, like, follow my hand with your breathing. She's, all in, shaking and everything else. So I started guiding her with my hand, deeply in, and letting go, nice and slow, nice and relaxed. So I carried on with this, got her doing the humming, and within, say, 10 to 15 minutes, you could see the colour coming back in her face. You could see she was taking back control of the situation. You could see her completely change, and I could tell in her from my experience of other times and in Poland and all the rest of it. So anyway, I then got her up and said, "Would you like to do some qigong, or the horse stance, as they say in the Wim Hof method?" So we got her doing some movement to activate the brown fat, and got the energy working, to the legs bent, so we can use the biggest muscle group of the body to generate a bit of body heat as well. So as she's doing that, she does it, she's fine. Then we walk back to the place where we were doing the breathing in the workshop. So they carried on to walk back. And then it was then when the guys because this is what I do type of thing, it was then I didn't think anything different of it. But then the guys who were running the workshop turned around, Pete and another guy there, and a lady, they turned around to me and said, "I've never seen anything like that before." I was like, how do you mean? And they were like, "Well, we've seen people go into early stages of hypothermia and uncontrollable shaking, and with it's usually half an hour to an hour before they can actually come round and be normal again. And like, you just done it there and got to come back round in 10-15 minutes." And they were blown away by it. So it's just the power of the mind and the body and the breathing, and know that your body will adapt and relaxing, and let the body do what it wants to do. If we're tense and we're holding on like this, can you breathe? If you're tense, you can't breathe. So therefore, yeah.
It's like with anything like this, though, isn't it? I mean, I notice you yourself on your arms there. You've got a few tattoos, as have I, so I'm sure you know full well as well that when you're going through that experience, it's the same thing, isn't it? If you sit there in the chair rigid and all really tense and everything's all, then it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible experience for everyone involved. I don't think anyone likes tattooing someone even that's like that. Whereas, like you say, if you relax and you breathe, you don't even just calm breathing.
Yeah. Deep inhales, elongated exhales.
And relaxation, and the pain is so much less, isn't it? Even just in something as simple as that.
That's it. It's because the breathing is connected to the whole nervous system, the endocrine system, your immune system, all these systems of the body, which they believe is automatic. These actually are connected through the breathing. So therefore, if we focus on our breathing and let go of all these thoughts and this fear and this tension, it's like you said, if you're getting a tattoo and you're all tense and you're cramped up, then you can't breathe.
Or if you're telling yourself, this is going to hurt, this is going to hurt, this is going to hurt, well, what are you going to end up thinking about it?
Exactly. And that was what the first woman in the morning was doing when she, what to do the minute or the 2 minutes or whatever. Straight away in her head, what Emma noticed was she went, "I can't do it." And then when Emma turned around and said, "Well, that's why. Because you're already straight away, before you're even going into the cold, you're already telling yourself you can't do it. What do you think the outcome's going to be?"
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do this, I can't do that, and this is all ego. It's all fear, doubt. It's all, you can't do this and you can't, do that. And well, what happens is, for me personally, and obviously must be with others, is when I go into the cold, and when I was playing around with the showers, you get that little thing in your mind that's telling you, don't go in, don't do it, don't go to the cold, it's too uncomfortable, don't do this, don't do that, chat. But when the more you go into the cold and you actually take back control and say, actually, no, I'm in control, you can shut up, I know the benefits of this, and I know it feels great, so I'm going cold. And now, and the more you train that, the more this part of the fear, doubt, it just kind of goes away in the background,
Yeah.
and you take more control over you and yourself and what you want to do and what you feel.
See, this whole area seems really, really interesting because, similar to what we were saying before, in that you're basically teaching yourself, your body, your mind, to go against certain natural instincts that you have, or worries or concerns that you have,
Yes.
fears about something, sometimes seemingly which are born out of, well, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, in a way as well. And yet also then we have these things, like you say, that are there that are not real, that are just like anxiety and fear of things that aren't necessarily there. So it's very, very difficult. It's so complex, isn't it? It's so complex.
That's it. A lot of these feelings and these emotions, they are there, but a lot of the time we don't know how to release it, and we don't know, like, people who are suffering with anxiety. I've been reading a book called The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McGowan. And in that he talks about nasal breathing, and how nasal breathing can get you more oxygen down into the diaphragm, which then oxygenates the rest of the body. He does breath holds and things, other techniques like that as well. But a lot of the times in our society, the way we are made, we're constantly stressed, we're constantly doing something, we constantly have to be here now, and this has to be done yesterday, and deadlines and all the rest of it. And we're constantly in this stress, and therefore our breathing changes. Our breathing now, instead of breathing into our lower regions of the body and into the stomach and into the diaphragm and oxygenate the lower parts of the body, we're breathing in to the chest, and we're breathing in through the mouth, and therefore we're not getting the oxygen that we need into the lower parts of the body. The biggest parts of the lungs are underneath the rib cage, but if we're only breathing up to here into the chest and the shoulders are coming up, how much oxygen are we getting into the body? Not enough. It's that simple. And when you focus on the breathing, you can focus on calming your breathing down, relaxing like in the cold, and therefore your stress and your anxiety and your depression and everything else, you can start to take more control over it.
You feel that there are similarities with other areas, with other fields of practice. Some of the things that have been said about this sort of method remind me of mindfulness, for example. There have been obviously tales of hundreds, if not thousands of years of monks of certain types, Buddhists, for example, who can, again, go out into the snow and meditate there. So, and I think he admits himself, Wim Hof, that he's not doing anything new per se, is he?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, even on the 10-week course, Wim mentions my method, and he said, well, it's not my method. I found it in cold, hard nature, which is what he did. He found the breathing techniques from going into the cold, and that's where he found it. But the actual breathing technique as well, I think, comes from an ancient Tibetan breathing technique called Tumo, which translates to inner fire, which is actually the name of Wim's company, or his son and daughter's company. And so it's been there for 1,000 years. The monks would sit up on the mountaintops with in the snow and by frozen lakes with wet towels on them, and would, just by the power of the breath, would warm up the towels and actually dry the towels. So this is something that it's been there for centuries, but we just, in the Western world, we've kind of don't believe in any of this type of stuff, and it's not what we're taught in schools and all the rest of it, what we can actually do and achieve if we go deeper into the parts of our own selves.
Because a lot of the things that he does as well, because obviously you can understand that people would be sceptical of this sort of thing over the years, but he's been tested so many times, hasn't he? In all sorts of different ways, and it seems to show that there is certainly something going on there that he's managing to do. But like I was saying, it ties in seemingly quite nicely with things like mindfulness and that sort of thing as well, which seemingly people are much more open about these days as well.
This is it. Yeah, there seems to be a change in people's mentality these days to do with mindfulness and all that practice, and the yoga and Reiki and all these other practices. But for me, it's what I got from the Wim Hof method is, it's like what Wim said. He's created like a shortcut. So like all the yogis that could go up into the mountains for say 2 years, 5 years, or whatever it is they need to find that place. He's kind of created a shortcut straight to in the now, in the present moment, with the cold, and then adding in these breathing techniques as well, which can be really powerful, really powerful. I mean, the first time I felt the breathing, it was, my hands were tingling, I felt lightheaded, I was just felt really good. And the breathing techniques are powerful, and I've seen miracles as well. I've seen people people who have been suffering with diseases such like as Lyme's disease. One guy who's also an instructor now, he was on my instructor training course. He was suffering with Lyme disease, and he was actually a police officer from the Netherlands. And he was bedridden for a long time. He just had, before, it took him years to get diagnosed with Lyme disease, because there was all these sort of diagnoses and stuff out there before he actually got officially diagnosed. In that time, he'd had 2 young kids, and the kids had watched him grow up, basically struggling and in pain, and then obviously struggling to get out of bed. So anyway, this guy, he decided to set up a GoFund because he heard about the Wim Hof method. So we set up a GoFund, managed to get enough money for 2 slots on the winter expedition. And so he decided to take a friend of his along who was also suffering with Lyme disease, and he was wheelchair bound. Okay, so they get to Poland and they document it. There's a little video somewhere on YouTube. And within 2 days, the guy is up and he's out of his wheelchair. He's up and he's out of his wheelchair and he's dancing. And he's like, yeah. And the other guy who took him there, he's feeling amazing. His symptoms are kind of going away as well. And then 4 days after they arrived, both of them bare-chested, in shorts, on the top of a mountain, dancing. So the guy who's in the wheelchair is obviously euphoric. He's crying, he's laughing, he's dancing. He doesn't, he's just so happy that he's found this, and it's so life-changing that it's such an amazing thing to hear, to see, to witness, and it was that much of a miracle. One of the girls who actually works behind the bar in the hotel, I found this out, she actually quit a job working behind the bar and became a Wim Hof method instructor as well. So because of the miracles really that happened from it.
Tell us a bit more about your experience with the mountain and what it was actually like doing these things and getting yourself into this position where you were able to go and do it.
Yeah, well, the first time, 2017, when I was there, we had to actually climb the mountain a day early. So we only did 3 days training, and we went to climb the mountain on the 4th day. And because there was a snowstorm coming in, so we wanted to get up the mountain before this weather came in.
Yeah.
So for me, I was kind of happy, because I was out of my environment that I was in at home. I was away from everything, and for me, I was going through once you start doing the breathing on a daily basis, and you feel the benefits, you just feel really elevated, light, happy. So going up the mountain, I felt really good. I felt happy. I felt in control, and then obviously I knew things were going to get harsher. So I think it was about 2 hours up the mountain, and we must have been about 20-minute walk from the shelter that they have there. It's like there's a cafe on the mountain, and it's just before the summit, before you make that last summit. And we were about 20 minutes walk from there when the snowstorm really started to kick in. A few people were struggling. The group was kind of getting split up a little bit, but I felt great. I was in the zone. I was focused. It's just all about you. You're breathing, no panic, just like with practice and train beforehand. Just focus on the breath, deeply in and slowly exhale. Even humming sometimes, or having a little tune in your head. But it's mainly just focus, just you, the breath, and each step. Each step up the mountain.
And there's
Focus.
nothing else in your life at that moment.
Nothing else that matters in that moment.
You're not worried about anything. You're not preoccupied by anything. You're not thinking about anything else. It's just that.
You in that moment, and each step at a time, and feeling the wind coming in, the snow starting to build up. At one point we were trying to get over something that was like knee-high deep in snow. So he's trying to keep you focused while you're also trying to get up this mountain. It was at that point some guides who had gone up ahead to check out the rest of the visibility on the mountain, they come back down and said, listen, you can't go any further, basically. Obviously for health and safety reasons and stuff like that. Me being me, I was like, oh, I feel great, I want to carry on. But then the instructors got us to, it was like a ski slope building that was there, where they do a ski lift, sorry. It's like a ski lift building that was all frozen as well. And we kind of took shelter in that, started to put our clothes on. And it wasn't until I actually started to put my clothes on until I lost focus a little bit, because you're thinking about where everyone else is and there's clothes being thrown around and passed around. And I went to put my pants on, and I'm trying to get my pants on, and then my hands started to have a little bit of a shake, and I realised I couldn't really properly do my button up on my jeans, on my pants. So I was like, can't get the button on. So one of the instructors had to button up my pants for me. My hands, I would then starting to realise that I couldn't really use my hands as much because I lost the focus that we were in. And it's like, okay, now, so I put a couple of layers on, and that's when I started to get a slight shiver. Not too much, not uncontrollably or anything like that, but that's when I started to get a bit of a shiver, and I was like, right, okay. It's hard to explain the feeling, but just being stuck in that present moment and trusting what your body can do is, yeah, it's not like you can just go and run off a mountain and panic and, it's be taken over by fear. You have to be in control.
Yeah, it's that idea of being present in this moment, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah,
and not being preoccupied by other things.
This is it, and just trusting in your body, trusting that it will adapt, which it will, and then reaping the benefits, feeling good. So that was the first time I tried to climb the mountain. Obviously, we failed, but I got out of it what I needed. Yeah. So for all that stuff that I was holding on to, the night after the mountain, I kind of came back to the Wim's house, and that night we all kind of celebrated. We had a couple of drinks. It was the first night I had a drink, and Wim was there on his own. It was the first night I really properly got to meet Wim. He was there on his own. He was sat playing his guitar, playing his Crazy Monkey song, if you've heard of that. And for me, I was intrigued in what he was actually saying in his lyrics, because he sat there a lot of the time shouting it, and I can't really focus on with everyone else speaking. So I went up to Wim, sat next to him, and I said, "Oh, do you mind telling me the lyrics and singing the song? Let me know what your lyrics say, singing it to me." And so he did. So we sat there, and he's just singing his song in my ear, and I'm understanding. I was like, "Oh, it makes sense. I get it now." And in that moment, he's like, "Music's like meditation, man. It's good for the soul." And I was like, I looked at him, and in my darkest times, I pick up my guitar when none of my friends around to speak to or be there. I pick up my guitar, and I just, I can only play a few chords and things like that, but I just play it, and I just vent whatever was in my head and just make up my own little song in my head. So I said the same to Wim. I said, "Oh yeah," I said, "for me, I understand. That's why I play." And he's like, "You play?" I was like, no, obviously still no confidence. I can't play. And Wim was like, just, "Here, man, play." And I was like, okay, right, he's just giving me this guitar. He's just telling me to play. He's looking at me with these big, steely blue eyes. When Wim looks at you, it's like he's looking into your soul, So I'm like, okay. So I picked up the guitar, and the only song I could think of playing was the song I made up myself in my head. So I was like, that's the only one I kind of can play now while I'm so nervous. So I started playing the guitar. I started singing, and Wim sat there and listening, and he's like, and he really enjoyed it, really liked the song. So then I decided, I was like, right, Wim, I need a drink. I'm going to get up. Do you want one? I'll buy you a drink. I'll get you a drink from the bar. And he's like, "No, you sit there. Drink my pint." So then I ended up sharing a pint with Wim. He wouldn't let me move. Before I knew it, we're passing the guitar back and forth to each other. We're having a good jam on the guitars. And I always kind of close my eyes when I'm playing, to drift off into my own little space. And then when I opened my eyes, there was like a group of people all sat around. They were all listening. They were all kind of then started joining in. And for me, I was like, wow, I didn't realise I was kind of playing in front of this many people.
So if you hadn't have picked up the guitar, if you hadn't have had it forced on you, you wouldn't have had this experience,
yeah, in my
would you?
moment of being down
Yeah.
is when I had more time to pick up my guitar. Like when you're in a relationship and things
No,
like
sorry,
that.
I mean this specific moment when, you know, if Wim hadn't
Yeah.
forced you to take that
Yeah.
guitar and forced you to play, you would have been like, oh no, I can't do this. I can't
That's it,
possibly
yeah.
do this.
Yeah,
And yet
yeah.
this is what you end up with,
This is
being surrounded by people who are
this
enjoying
is being
your song.
taken out of my comfort zone, which
Yeah.
is what Wim does. You know, he takes you out of your comfort zone, gives you some inspiration and some confidence, and then from there it was like, okay, you know, and yeah, it was fantastic. That's the first night I met Wim. And then the next day, we were back to the waterfall where he decided that right, okay, we're gonna jump in from the top of the waterfall. Right, you've done the mountain, excellent, well done, guys. Now today we're gonna go. It's optional. Those of you who want to come and jump from the waterfall, come and jump from the waterfall. So for me, I was thinking in my head, well, I've done the mountain, I've done all the training. There's no way I'm coming to Poland and not jumping in off the waterfall. So it's like, okay, come on, Wim, we'll follow you. So anyway, we got to the waterfall and this 60 was there, and Wim just signals me out. It's like, Ian, had a great night with you last night, man. I want to take your email address and your phone number and the rest of it. Or I want to stay in contact. So I was like, Wim Hof, the Iceman, he's wanting to now ask me for my phone number. I was like, no way, he's just saying that. It's just saying that. So anyway, that day we jumped in off the waterfall, which we did. You had to hit a certain spot so you didn't get injured. So Wim's there pointing down, going, right, hit there. So you're like looking down, right?
Not 2 inches to the left, right there.
Yeah, that's it. So you're like, okay, there, Wim, yeah, okay, I'm going. And then you go and so on. And yeah, it's amazing. And then that night, when we got back to Wim's after the waterfall, and I was in the sauna, and I kind of opened up to the few of the lads in the sauna about what had been going on back home and everything else, and they were kind of blown away by all the stuff I had going on. And they mentioned to them that I had brought a book with me, The Way of the Iceman, that I wanted to get signed for Big Steve. And so yeah, I said, do you think I should bother Wim and ask him if he should sign this book? And they're like, yeah, of course you should, go and ask him. So that night after the meal, Wim was sat there again, kind of more or less on his own. So then a couple of the guys were like egging me on, saying, right, now's a good time to go and speak to him, go and ask him to sign the book. So I was like, okay, I will do. So I went up to Wim, said, hey Wim, I said, sorry to bother you, but do you mind signing this book for me for my friend back home who's suffering with cancer? So he said, yeah, Ian, I'd be annoyed if you didn't ask me. Give it here. Here's my phone. Put your email address and your phone number in it. So I was like, oh okay. So I'm putting my email address and phone number in. He's writing a lovely message to Big Steve in the book. And just such a genuine, down-to-earth, loving, funny, charismatic guy, you know, just wanting to help everyone, try and heal the world, and that's kind of his mission. So yeah, it was great to kind of do that. And then I left Poland after that experience. Someone actually gave me a guitar, who I was staying in the house with. They gave me a guitar, knew about my journey, where I wanted to go traveling and go to Honduras and all this other stuff, and he told me to take that with me. I mean, at first I couldn't take it. I said, no, it's too much, I can't take it. And he just turned around to me and said, well, if you don't take the guitar, I'm going to take it to a hostel or something charity shop before I go home, so I won't be taking it with me, but I want you to have it. So I was like, okay, I'll take the guitar. So I left there with the book signed by Wim, contact with Wim, and this guitar. But also on that night after the waterfall, Wim mentioned about teaching others and about becoming an instructor, which was never my intention. I mean, when I got there, I just went, like I said, I hated the cold. It wasn't my intention to become an instructor, but with Wim inserting some confidence in me, and I knew the power of this method, and obviously wanted to do the whole herbal thing as well. And
he sounds like a very difficult person to say no to.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes. He just like looks at you, and you just get a lot of people to do a lot of things they don't want to do. That's his speciality, getting people out of the comfort zone. So for me, it's like, could I stand up in front of people and could I teach this method? I don't know. Still a little bit of doubt there and stuff like that. But I knew I only had a few months left after that to go back to work before I want to plan my journey on going travelling. So I decided to, after Wim's advice, sign up to the academy. So I quit my job in March, I think it was. end of March, I decided I was going to go to Spain first to stay at a relative's apartment in Spain and look after my mum's health, sort my mum's health out, get her doing the breathing every day, sort of diet and nutrition out and all that type of stuff, and spend some time with my mum. So I did that at first, and then I headed to the academy in Stroe in the Netherlands, and I went there actually early because I didn't have a job then. I was travelling, and it worked out a lot cheaper to go on a certain day than another day. So I got there like a week early. So and I texted Wim. I said, "Well, I'm coming to the Netherlands today. Is there anywhere I can stay near the centre because I've got nowhere else to go. I've quit my job and everything else." And Wim was like, "Yeah, he got back to me," which I was, surprised at. And he was like, "Yeah, man, come and stay at the centre. Come and stay at the centre and check out the place and everything else." So I thought, oh, okay, excellent. So I got to a local pub nearby and went and had some food before I went to the centre. And got to the centre, Wim brought me in. He was like, he showed me around the place. And then I was there, I think it was 4 or 5 days early from when my actual academy training was due to start. And so me not being lazy, and I always like to be active or doing something, I started helping the gardener around the grounds. I started working on the grounds. Wim asked me if I could get all the ice baths and the hot tubs and things like that ready for the people when they come, for the other instructors. So that's what I did. So I spent a few days working on the grounds and things like that, and helping Wim and helping his girlfriend, his partner, just tidy up the place and everything else. And Wim was kind of that impressed that that the work I was doing and the help I was giving, that he told me I could stay for the whole week, and because there was 2 lots of academy training going on that week, so he basically let me stay for both, which was fantastic. I got to meet so many different people from all around the world, from all different countries and backgrounds, and hear so many stories, and so it was fantastic. And then the day I was leaving, it was actually on my 33rd birthday, and I had a little jam that morning with Wim on the guitar. I actually left him a picture that I'd drawn as a thank you for putting me up for so long and letting me stay at the academy. And he was like, "Oh, it's your birthday. You shouldn't be giving me gifts on your birthday." So he gave me some, like a poster from the wall to take down of the chakra system and all this other stuff, and then dropped me at the train station. And then after that, I then went from there to Barcelona, where I was taking part in the summer expedition. So Wim Hof obviously has a winter expedition in Poland, which is harsh in the snow and things like that. But they also have like an adventurous summer expedition, where not only do you do the cold water of the Spanish Pyrenees, but you also do some canyoning. You do potentially some years is whitewater rafting and breathing, ice baths, and it's like an adventure. So I did that next. So I spent a week there doing that and meeting more people from around the world and seeing so many other people go through this similar transformation that I went through in Poland. And by seeing this extra stuff and having this extra experience of seeing all these people go through what they were dealing with, I've seen people during the breathing laugh, scream, cry, sing. One woman was actually one of the instructors to be, Jo. She actually started singing after one of the breathing classes, and it was so beautiful. It was unbelievable. And I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of it. So from Spain, I left there and went to Honduras. Well, I headed out to America.
So you finally made this Honduran trip.
I made it, yeah. I finally made it there. It was in the pipeline for a long time, and so even though a few family members were crying and telling me not to go because it's the murder capital of the world and all this fear-based mentality, for me it's like, the synchronicities, the connections, and just knew I had to go there, and I knew everything would be okay no matter what the situation. So I headed there. I got to Honduras. I found the village. I ended up getting a hotel, which I thought was like, I didn't even know where the village was. I got a hotel that was meant to be, I heard was close. So we got to the hotel. It was right on the beach. Beautiful location. And then it was literally just 10 minutes, little tuk-tuk taxi up the road to the village. So the next day, after I got there, I went straight to the village. The guy from the hotel actually had met Dr. Sebi before he passed away. And he took me up there, dropped me off at the village. I introduced myself, got to spend a week there at the village. taking all the herbs, doing all the thermal waters, doing all the therapies and stuff that they do, and just relaxing out in nature, sitting on a hammock for the first time. It's the first time I've ever sat in a hammock, so I was sitting on a hammock relaxing, and it was fantastic. It was an amazing experience.
What's it been like since then that you've done all these things and you've come back to the Isle of Man? You are a Wim Hof instructor, you're the island's first. What's it been like since you've got back? What's been the reception to it, for example?
You know what, actually, before I went away, it was a lot of people weren't really open to listening to certain things. And since I've been back, I've just had nothing but positivity, nothing but love, everyone wishing me well, and it's been really fantastic to see. And more people now are opening up to these kind of things, like we said before. So it's amazing that people are stepping outside of the comfort zone, are willing to give these different therapies a try, and it can only be beneficial. So it's been busy. It's been busy. Yeah, I've been trying to answer all the emails, questions, and media stuff, and do talks, and
Well, for example, I mean, we're talking on Wednesday, the 15th of May, and you were saying that before you came up here today to chat with me, you'd been doing a lecture for Mental Health Awareness Week. So when it comes to something like that, when you're dealing with an area like mental health, which is obviously so much more out in the open these days, isn't it? Yeah. What are you doing when you go into that sort of area? So, for example, what did you do in the lecture today? What did you talk about?
Well, in today, it's the first ever lecture I've ever done. So I obviously did a PowerPoint presentation where we delve into the 3 pillars of the Wim Hof method, which is obviously the breathing, the cold exposure, and the mindset. So I basically talked a bit about that, delved into the science, the endotoxin study where they injected Wim with the I think it was the E. coli virus, and obviously you know about it from the Vice documentary, where 12 people were not trained and 12 people got sick, and 12 people were trained, and 100% of them, every single one of them, didn't get a symptom, just from the breathing techniques and the cold exposure and the training in Poland. So I taught a little bit about that. There's some videos and stuff like that. Also, then we went to the latest study, which is at Wayne State University in America, where they put women into a certain suit. I don't know if you've seen this one. They put them into
No, I've not seen this one.
Well, they put women into a suit where they were flushing freezing cold water through the suit, and then neutral water. So it was going from cold to neutral. And what they noticed on the machines when they were testing Wim was that when he wasn't doing these techniques, he was just like everyone else. Slightly different, a little bit of a difference, but he was just like everyone else. So then they got Wim into the fMRI brain scanner and the PT scanner. And what they found was that when Wim was doing his breathing, he accessed this deep meditative state in the brain, which he normally does in the cold. When he's in this brain scanner and it's making all these noises and all this racket, he was still managed to find that place where he gets to, and he started accessing the periaqueductal grey hemisphere in the brain, which is right in the deepest part of the brainstem, the reptilian brain, the primal brain, the fight or flight, where all the stress response is, the good, the opioids, the endocannabinoids and things like that, all these systems of the body. And he realised that was illuminating and lighting up. So when, I think it was in the insula, so that is what controls your hypothermic reaction. So that was, when that was, I think, decreasing, the periaqueductal grey hemisphere was lighting up, and it was going in unison on the machines. So it was when that wasn't working, that was going up, down, up, down. So they found out in the latest study that Wim can actually access these parts of the body that was before unheard of. So so we taught a bit of the new science, the old science, and then we got some people doing some breathing techniques. I explained how to do the breathing, how to make it flow from the belly to the chest to the head, and certain aspects of that. Then we did a little bit of just introduction to the breathing, and I talked about my journey to the Wim Hof method, a bit like, more or less what we talked about today. And then I went into a bit more of the science and the breathing, the techniques, and the benefits of the cold, and the benefits of the breathing, and the commitment, and all that. And then after that we did 4 rounds of breathing of the Wim Hof method. And then at the end we had some questions and stuff, and just processed what people have been through. So yeah.
And what else are you doing with it over here then?
With the method?
Yeah.
I'm actually in the process at the minute of starting up my own business, because obviously I know the benefits this can have on the mental health side of things, and it's something that's personal to me as well, with my family members and things like that, and also autoimmune disease and any autoimmune related illnesses. I'm going to start a morning breathing class where people can come. They can change the chemistry of the body early morning, first thing before they have anything to eat. There will be an ice bath set up and ready for them, so that'll be an option if they want to do that. Obviously, you have to have exposed yourself to gradual cold exposure before you want to go and jump in cold water, because it can cause cardiac arrest in some cases and things like that. So you do have to be gentle with the way you go into it. You don't just get thrown straight into an ice bath, So that's what I'm in the process of setting up at the minute, via my own company, which is our business, which is going to be called Inner Alchemy. It is called Inner Alchemy. So I'm just in the process of getting that set up, and I want to have that up and running for after TT week. So yeah, that should be what I'm adding in.
The one thing that I always ask people before they leave, I say the one thing I always ask people, this is the third one that I've done of these. So
okay.
The third out of 3 people that I've asked this at the end of. On your journey so far, and not just with this method, but just in life in general, what do you feel like at this point you've learnt from it? Where do you feel like you are, and what do you feel like you could offer to other people as some sort of advice, or something that you've learnt along the way, some sort of little nugget, or something that you've realised is important in life,
For me, just be willing to try. Just be willing to let go of the mindset of a belief system that you have, that something, that doesn't work, or this doesn't work, but without even actually trying something. So for me, it's try it for yourself, experience it, know then, because then once you've experienced it, you've got to know whether it works or it doesn't work. So, but just at least be willing to try and give something a go. Let go of certain beliefs that you think serve you, and actually they're not. They're holding you back. They're based on fear and things like that. And just be willing to step outside the box.
Ian Kirk, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Cheers.
Pleasure.